Well, I left my house this morning on my way to work. Some lady on the train spilled coffee on my shirt. People started laughing like the whole thing was funny. I would have went home except I need the money. 'Cause times are hard. My boss is crazy. The guy works with me. He's so damn lazy. Sits around all day, drinks coffee and tea. Sends all the work to be done by me. Sometimes I wonder what they hired me for. To operate the business or run through the store when I ask for a raise. They tell me to be patient. I was working 3 years without a damn vacation. Things could get better, but they're getting worse. Until I got this job, I never used to thirst. I've had it up to here with people treating me wrong. So why not tell KJ to sing my song? Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday. It is -8 degrees here in our little hacienda. We've had an interesting last couple of days. Below zero temperatures. We've got about 6 to 8 inches of snow on the ground. And we woke up very early this morning and all the electricity was out. Now, the good news is we've got one of them big high-dollar generators out the garage that you just push a button and it comes on and it lights everything up and all that. Long story short, we had to go through all the problem of moving that thing around, getting it going and all this and that. And they got our electricity back on once again. Now, it was already warm in the house. It wasn't like we were immediately going to freeze our butts off because the electricity was out. It's just, we've got certain heaters, one in the attic because we have one of our hot water heaters up in the attic. So we have to keep a heater on it so that it doesn't freeze. We have to have a heater on the back of the washing machine that's out in the garage because it gets cold out there. And we had one a while back that was almost brand new and it got busted out of the back from where the water had collected in the hoses and stuff. So we are stuck in the house, but there is some good news. Wayne and I, this will be our third day of spending all day together. And yesterday, we did something that we normally don't do. We sat in front of the television and watched Murder, She Wrote with Angela Lansbury. It was funny. You had scenes in there where people were smoking on airplanes and they had Walkmans and just all this old 70s, 80s type stuff, And it was really interesting. And we sat and kind of played a little game, Who's the Killer? And I was right all the time, but he had some clues right. He just couldn't put them together as articulately as KJ. Good morning, Tara Dippa, Nicole, Jennifer Esslinger, K-Tech, Rachel Black, I Live for Now, Madonna De Pasqua, Dog Mom, Chris Arnett, 1979 ACR, Elba Lopez, Mary Seidler, Jennifer Esslinger, I might be repeating these, y'all, Jill Schneider, Cindy Arnold, I think I am, but I'm just trying to make sure I say good morning to everybody, and the X-Files. So anyway, glad y'all are here. Last time we were together, I was asking whether or not y'all had any snow yourself, and a lot of y'all did. And so I guess we're all in this together. We're in our homes. I've always said that when it's raining real bad or if it has snow conditions like this, it's almost as if time stands still for me because you can't go anywhere and you can't do anything. And so Wayne and I are here at home and just getting through the week. We're not going to get any more warm weather till when, Wayne?
This weekend.
This weekend. It's supposed to let up. It was -8 this morning. It's already clicked back down to -6. And I've been feeding the birds, so every bird within a 5-mile radius is in my front yard right now. They're beautiful. We get everything from woodpeckers to Any kind of bird, you name it, that's in this region, we've got it. Good morning, Miss Frisco Wynn. Good morning, Jules in Virginia. Good morning, Granny Whisperer, Tanya C. Harley 62, K-Tech, Maryland, The Daily Book Dose, Tanya C. So tomorrow, we all know what tomorrow is, and I've had a few comments on the community wall where the comments are like, it's going to be what it's going to be, trying to really look at it in a more positive light. One way or the other, whatever is decided on the damn asshole, we just got to suck it up, buttercup, and, pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. And the only thing is I've been checking every day, and I do not see a state's response to this motion to withdraw. And I got to thinking about that, and I thought, well, maybe the state doesn't want to turn in, maybe they want to deal with it when they have the hearing. And what would their stand be? Would their stand be, I'm sorry, Charlie, but you're going in the death penalty, so let's just move this the way we need to do it in order to keep appeals away from that jerk? Or could they be wanting to say, okay, now's the time to take the death penalty off the table? I don't know. But the state, absolutely, they're the ones that have to put on the case, their case in chief. So they have to have some kind of say-so in all this. Susan Honecker says, good morning all. I used to watch MSR, had the negative temps here in South Mid-Missouri. Brr. Makes me appreciate 8 this morning. Keep warm, you all. Good morning, says Great Dane Mom. I just got 4 inches on the top of my 12. It's at 2 degrees here in Boise. Nicole says, I know I'm old because feeding the birds is one of my favorite things to do. Well, Nicole, if God gives me grandkids one day, I'm going to try to teach them to do that too. I wanted to go, Wayne went to pick up the oil seed, the sunflower seeds, and he said the lady told him, oh, God bless you for feeding the birds. We just have done it every year that we've come here, 20 degrees in Florida, says Maryland. Well, Maryland, next month, was it February what, Wayne?
12.
February 12th, for a whole week of that, Wayne and his buddy Mark's going to be down in Daytona for the week on the ocean. They're going to be oceanside, and they're going to be going to the Daytona 500. And it could be cold, but they've got all the gear, so they don't ever miss it. Well, hello, daughter of Scotland. No snow here, unfortunately, says daughter of Scotland. Cindy Arnold says, I hope the judge gives the attorney a piece of his mind. Well, again, y'all, it really comes down to public statements in a court of law where John Pryor has said he's been ready so many times. So, I don't know. But I do have a subject that I want to bring up that I have been thinking about. And I hope y'all will bear with me because it is a little risque. I've been thinking about the very first criminal case that I ever took time to do anything in, and that was basically a crime board. Me and other people would get together. We'd do crime boards. We'd have some people come in and judge them. And it was a way that we'd meet at least 1 to 2 days a month. It was this place. It was like a card shop where you could buy bobbleheads and video games and all kind of stuff. But there was a table in the back that the owners would let people go and do different things. And we'd meet there and we would talk about different. We wouldn't show our crime boards. We would just kind of get ideas from one another. without the crime boards being there, if that makes any sense. And just discussing things so that it would give us ideas of what else we could put on our crime board. And that case was the Jodi Arias case. And that case has long since been adjudicated, but it was one of the most diabolical cases that I had ever delved into. And I hope I'm going to really try to explain this in a way where it dovetails into what we have been talking about lately with Chad Daybell, okay? Just bear with me. So, in the middle of that trial and all of that and all the information that was learned in the court filings, in the trial itself, it's almost like you're in the middle looking around you. But once an adjudication process ends and everything, and especially when there's a few years going on, you can look back and see things that you didn't see, or that maybe I knew at the time, but I didn't emphasize it as much and didn't know that emphasizing it would really answer a lot of questions for me in the Chad and Lori Daybell case, because, folks, I didn't even know I would even start getting in with this Chad and Lori Daybell case. But I'm just going to go into it. And again, this is adult content. This has also been set on this live stream, no children. Jodi and Travis got into a sexual relationship. They weren't supposed to get into one, but they got into this sexual relationship. And, they did a lot of experimenting and stuff, whether it's getting into bubble baths or her putting her hair in braids and putting on a cute little maid's outfit, or whether they had, he would have her, roped up to the bed, or, there were times that they were in the car and she'd do something for him, extracurricular. I won't go into the actual word of it, but I think y'all understand where I'm going. And they were just always trying to fulfill their fantasies. And I think that it wasn't that so much for Jodi that that's really what she wanted to do. She just thought of it as her way of pleasing Travis. So every time he had a great sexual experience with her, she felt like that was her way of getting him to be in love with her. And she saw herself as, them two are going to be together and all of this. Well, he didn't see it that way. I'm sure you can understand that when you are young like that and you've tried everything and you're talking about things like, I want to tie you up to the tree naked and go from behind, if you know what I mean, and things like that over those recordings. Maybe y'all didn't listen to that case, but I did. It just seemed like their sex life escalated. It just escalated. And the reason it escalated was because she couldn't hold on to him any other way. And if she got in there and did things differently, something that would attract him, get him horny, whatever you want, and try something, or if he came up with an idea, then, that would keep him strung along even further. And she was willing to degrade herself, and I really believe she did. I think there were times, specifically when they played that sex phone call between them, where he was saying, I want to do these things to you, and they were awful things. And she'd just giggle them away, but in my heart of hearts, I feel like she was like at a point where she was going to do whatever he wanted her to do because she didn't want to lose him. And I think that built up resentment in her. I think there was probably a lot of ickiness and dirty feelings coming from her every time she did these things for Travis Alexander. And anytime she could have told him, no, I'm not going to do these things. And every time that Travis Alexander seemed to go off with his friends or had met someone else, there was a time that she was looking through the back rear glass as he was making out with a girl on a couch, and that was in the testimony. It just seemed like she had to up her game. And, that was her only way. There was nothing else. If you stop and think, what else could Jodi Arias give this guy? Well, first, he helps her get into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. From there, she could have took a wholesome type of attitude, but they were doing all this stuff together. And the defense tried to paint Travis Alexander as this womanizer, and he probably was. Just because he was in that religion does not mean, or anybody in that religion, does not mean that people don't screw around. And that, he was more concerned about it getting out because he was being so successful in his business. And she just didn't want to let him go. Rachel Black says, Jodi Arias sounds like she had an insecure, anxious attachment. Well, she used her seductive ways. She used her body sexually. And she allowed Travis Alexander to do whatever he wanted to do to her. And it escalated and it escalated. And I'm so shocked that at some point it didn't become threesomes or something like that, because they were doing all of this. Just really disturbing things. Maybe disturbing isn't the thing, because who am I to say what people's sex lives should be about? All I'm talking about is if you're going to tie somebody up to a tree naked and have anal sex with them in the middle of the woods there, that to me, I see that as extreme. To me, it's sick, but other people, maybe they're just following out their fantasies. It's like fornication, The fact that they weren't married, the fact that they knew, both of them knew, that they shouldn't have been doing those things. I'm sure it was very exciting for them. But there came a point where I believe that Travis Alexander got tired of Jodi. Sexually, I think he'd done everything he knew how to do with her. And I think that, there just wasn't enough there for him to say to himself, this is the kind of woman that I want to marry. And so he invited this other woman on this prepaid trip that Jodi thought she was going to go on. And it's just like, it just blew up into murder. And in some ways, I could see how Jodi would be so upset after giving everything, because she did. She gave her body. Sexually, she gave it to Travis wholeheartedly. The best she knew how to do. She continued to entertain his fantasies. She even came up with fantasies of her own. It was said in court, she's the one that introduced him to the lube stuff, you know what I'm talking about, the gel stuff they use, to make you all slippery and everything. And, so she was already a little bit, she'd already had past boyfriends and stuff. And so she knew all about that. And then it came out into court that the man that she'd lived with before getting with Travis, he came to court and said, yeah, we had tried some kinky stuff too. So that kind of, it couldn't have been, she got all that kinky stuff and started doing all that kinky stuff because Travis wanted her to. She was already doing that stuff beforehand. And so she saw herself as someone, this was her value. This was how she was going to get a man. And it just never materialized for her. Because the more she did, the more the game just kept getting up and up. I mean, he's doubling down on wanting to try even different things and newer things and all of this and that. And I think it just got to that point where she realized no matter what she did, no matter how much sex she gave him, no matter how much she, just was waiting on him hand and foot and all that. And y'all don't get me wrong, Jodi Arias is evil and diabolical. But she realized when she found out he's taking this other girl on the trip, I'm sure she'd heard around that, this is a nice, proper Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint girl, that she wasn't. First of all, she couldn't turn back the time. She'd already give it all out time and time again. There was no excitement in that. There was no sacredness to it. Nothing to look forward to. And I think she just absolutely realized that since he was going to bring this girl and not her, that all the things that she tried to do to seduce him, and I don't think at the time she was thinking, I'm going to seduce him. I think she just gave herself fully. And he just enjoyed it. He being the young man he was experimenting too. He was wrong for continuing to bring her back so he could get some more. But she would always tempt him into saying yes. And then, of course, finally, he didn't even know she was coming over that last time when she ended up murdering him. She just shows up, and she's showing up in her little braids. Her hair color's not blonde anymore. She wants to look different for him. She knew in the past she did the braids, and that turned him on. So she goes over there, and then, of course, y'all know what happens. She gets him in a shower under this pretense of wanting to take photos of him that are like Calvin Klein, and him being egotistical, because he was a salesman. He had a lot of ego. He just got in that shower, and she stabbed him and stabbed him. He comes out of the shower. He leans over the sink. She's stabbing him in the back. The blood shows. He's standing there taking it. And then he makes his way down the hallway. You see smudges on the walls where the blood loss is getting him weak and everything. He gets at the end of the hallway. He falls down on all fours. And that's when she slits his neck. And to top it all off, she shoots him in the head with a gun. So she destroyed that. She destroyed Travis Alexandra. She murdered him. She premeditated it all the way back to the gas cans and everything else. But the bottom line is, honey, give him something to eat. Just give him some chicken or something. We have a dog that's got a cold. Anyway, so she did all that she could do. And what does she do once she leaves that bloody scene? She goes up to this Ryan Burns. That's her alibi. And she gets in the bed with him and all that. He says that they did stuff. She says they didn't. Who do you want to believe? But it's almost like she could turn it on and off. And that's, to me, narcissism and psychopathy. That's my opinion. I'm no professional. Where am I going with this? Well, I really started thinking about it, and I thought, what was Lori willing to do to get Chad? What was Lori willing to do to get Chad? And, we could already start down the list, but, first of all, she told Chad that she, just by him coming to her house the weekend Charles wasn't there, that she had all this money. She was open about her. She felt like she had these special abilities and all this and that. She primped and made herself look beautiful. It wasn't hard to do that at that time. Lori was very attractive. And I do believe, it maybe not as raunchy, but Lori, she was seeking a way out of things in her life. At the same time, the only way out she saw was through Chad Daybell. And I don't know why she would have had to really seduce him very much, knowing that he was nothing more than a freaking sling blade tater boy. I mean, he was nothing. I don't see him being someone playing hard to get. But it does make sense that they were seeing each other in hotels. They were doing all the things they were doing. I do believe they had a sexual relationship. I do believe it might have started off with the bumping and grinding, clothes on clothes stuff, touching the breasts, and her doing special things for Chad, if you know what I mean, giving him a blessing, if you know what I mean. I think those things happened. And she really was absolutely wanting Chad Daybell. And Chad, it wouldn't have been nothing for him to want her, but I think, this is just theory, that when he started creating these narratives about zombies and the children and his wife and Brandon Boudreaux and stuff, I think he was creating this just to see how far she would go. It's no different that Travis Alexander would have asked Jodi Arias, I want you to do this really kinky thing. And every time she did it, it was her way of saying, see, I'm loyal to you, I love you, or whatever. But I think Chad started creating all of this stuff about the children being possessed and the rating scales and all of this and that. And every time Lori went along with it, it's almost like he knew that he had her. But she also was doing her part of things too, her seductive ways to keep him going toward her. She would have done anything. This was her last rodeo, y'all. She was in her 40s. She didn't see anyone else she wanted to be with. She sure as hell didn't want to live by herself or with Alex Cox for the rest of her days. She was looking for that guy, and his name was Chad Daybell. And once she got asphyxiated on it, she was willing to hear him and anything he had to say and anything he wanted her to do. It's like this whole thing, would Jodi Arias, would she have done all of those sexual things with Travis Alexander simply because she wanted the pleasure of it, or she wanted control over Travis Alexander? And I believe it was a way of her keeping involved and in control with him. If she was doing these things with him and all of that, then he's with her, right? The same thing goes with Chad and Lori. I would have thought that it would have been Chad who would have been concerned of whether Lori would get tired of him or get bored with him. So this is theory, y'all. He's making up these fantastical things about James and Elena, about these other worlds that they've been on. Just all of these things to keep her looking at him. But maybe, just maybe, Chad kept upping it, and maybe in the back of his mind, he was going to see how far it would be before she would fail him. And then he would have his excuse to go back to Tammy and go on with his life. That's just a theory. But it never happened because Lori was strong enough to jump through those hoops with Chad. Let's ask the question, who jumped through the hoops more? Was Chad jumping through hoops for Lori more, or was Lori jumping through hoops for Chad? And obviously we see that when the murder started, it all started with Lori's husband, Charles Vallow. And anyone wants to tell me that Chad was not intimately involved in that decision, I don't care what anyone else thinks. I know what I think, and I think Chad Daybell knew good and damn well that this was one of the things that they were working out. He wanted to see some loyalty, and he definitely wanted to see the money. And on the other side of that, Lori had already presented herself as this well-off woman. She knew that if her and Charles split up, that she wouldn't get anything really. And where was she going to go, right? Because Chad wasn't at the time. He wasn't already rid of Tammy and wasn't going to divorce her. So Lori was willing to do whatever it took to move those obstacles. And she did a lot of things during that time. We read text messages from Lori's trial where he's talking cheek to cheek and loin to loin, and she brings up just only cheek to cheek. That must have killed him. I'm sure he would have loved for her text message back on that to say cheek to cheek and loin to loin, to mirror each other on what they were thinking. But all she was thinking was being close to him. She wanted to be his wife. And I think Chad just really got off on all of this stuff that was going on. If he's got this orchestrated plan that he said he had with Lori. Honey, can you get him some chicken, please, or something?
Yeah.
Okay. We've got a dog that's got asthma. But anyway. Honey, can you take him into the other bedroom?
Put him in the garage.
Okay.
That buddy.
Did you give him his medicine?
What medicine?
It's on the counter. Just put it in a little piece of cheese. So, what I'm trying to say is that this escalated. And the reason that this escalated was because they both were forcing the escalation upon one another. In other words, let me give you an example. If Chad told Lori, yes, Tylee and JJ's got to die, they got zombies in them, he had to know that Lori was on board with that. But maybe in the back of his mind, maybe he thought there's always this chance that she could say, no, I can't do it. And he couldn't back down because he's supposed to be telling her the truth, right? So if he's telling her the truth that the children are possessed and everything, and she's going along with it, how can he back out of it? And on the flip side of that, if she really believes Chad Daybell, how's she going to back out of it? Or how about this? Maybe she didn't believe in any of what was Chad telling her, but she wanted Chad Daybell. And one way to do that is to, affirm him. Let him know that, yes, I've seen it too. I've seen JJ's body almost leave him, just like you said. So she knew how to play him, and he knew how to play her. And so when it came down to all of the murder and all of this, I think it came to the point where when Chad was creating the narrative about the children and got Alex involved with Lori about it all, and the children were murdered, the bottom line is Chad Daybell, he played the game, and Lori turned it around on him to have to kill his own wife. Because, see, even if Chad didn't kill those children with his hands, he was conspiring and encouraging them to do that. So when they did that, there's no way that Lori and Alex are going to be sitting there and being like, okay, Tammy's still around. We did this, like you say. Tammy's still here. And him absolutely knowing that Alex and Lori are guilty of this stuff. And Lori and Alex knowing that Chad's the ringleader trying to, that got them to do all that. And so he's kind of locked himself into the situation. And yes, this has a little bit to do with getting the money and all that and them being together. But just on a bare level term, and as simple as I can say it, Jodi Arias did all those nasty ass sexual things with Travis thinking it was going to help. Travis ended up breaking up with her. This situation with Chad and Lori, it was Travis and Jody. They ended up breaking up. So it was a different kind of situation at that time. She continued to stalk him and all that. She felt like he owed her every time he had sex with her. And I believe that Lori had that within her too. If she's going to give in and believe all this stuff about Chad and have this sexual adulterous relationship with him, she feels like that, you know, he's got to show her as well. Could Chad have had Alex try to shoot at her on the 9th and his hands were completely clean of the whole thing? They tried that. It didn't work. They knew that Chad was going to have to do all this. Jax Gustafson says they did it with emotions. I still don't understand how either of them thought they were going to get away with it. Sarah Smith, I have a West Highland Terrier. Yeah, it is. It's a form of asthma. He's elderly and he's got it. We have to give him steroids. And this cold weather's bringing it out in him right now. And he just, bless his heart, he's about 14 years old. No emotions, says Jax. Good morning, Maria Thomas. Oakwood Nymph says, a perfect storm indeed, just not the perfect storm that Chinny believed he had. Hope your dog gets better real soon. Well, thank you so much, Oakwood Nymph. I'm looking to see if anything... Sunflower Sammy is talking to Harley62, saying absolutely disgusting. Inmates have their own rules. In prison, the top dog in female prisons get treated like queens, special favors, etc. Well, I'll tell you what, Sunflower Sammy, Lori Hussey Daybell will not be the queen. There's going to be a woman in there. She's going to be called a Don. She's going to be the one that barks all orders. Maybe Lori can lick the woman's toe jam out of between her toes. Eric says, I know 2 ladies incarcerated for life in Ohio and the few mothers that are in there for taking their kids' lives. The ones I know said got every chance someone has to get them. JoJo says, Jodi Arias sells her artwork and books and has 1 to 5 million network. I just Googled it. Well, that's sick. But if Arizona wants to do that, it's on them. It's on them. I'll tell you what, they never did say anything at the end of Lori's trial, putting in any final order that she couldn't get money from, you know, this whole trial. I hope it don't happen because I won't be mad at her at all. I'll be mad at all the dumbass people out there that's willing to fund this bitch. There, I said it. Both knew right from wrong, showed no self-control. In turning from wrong, they chose, says Susan Harnaker. Nicole says, I have to admit there were times many moons ago when certain men brought out the Jodi Arias out of me with their lies and manipulation. You know, I look at it like this. If Jodi wouldn't have jumped into a sexual relationship with Travis Alexander and at least pretended to be a good girl, he would have had a better chance. But for her to spread it and give him all access to every kind of kinky thing that they did, I mean, any young man's going to get bored with that, especially when he knows from his upbringing that sooner or later he's got to find a good wife. You know, Sunflower Sammy, I haven't seen anything about that. Law in Idaho preventing profit from the criminals. I haven't. I'd have to ask Kresha about that. Maybe she knows. Well, Eric, I've always said all these media companies that cover these criminal cases and stuff, more power to them. I'm all for capitalism, but I think they should start a bill, a legislative bill saying in all 50 states, if a media organization such as East Idaho News or Dateline NBC or whatever, and they get to make money, that a small portion of that goes in a fund for victims' family members. I think specific ones. If they're covering this case of Chad and Lori, should go all to the victims' family members. Whatever percent, because the percentage, even if it was only 1% of their profits go, that would be so good. That would be a good outcome. And Jax, just let me be clear. I'm not against all these media platforms and YouTube channels that cover this stuff or anything. I don't get any money. I don't want any money. All of these shows on TV, true crime genre and all that. I see nothing wrong with anyone if they put their time, research, and effort into their channel, whether it's through graphics, through memberships, of being able to maintenance their channels or their companies or whatever. But again, they make big profits. And so I think legislatively it would be great if 1% of their profits go to the families, the victims' family members. It's a simple law that I think it should be instituted. I thought not being able to make money from your crime was nationwide, says NF-Bomb. There are these Son of Sam laws, but each state does things differently. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to look in Judge Boyce's final order of the Lori Daybell case and see if there's anything written in there about that. Because I didn't go through it thoroughly. And we all got, you got convicted of this, you're going away for life. That's all what I was looking at. But there's got to be other things in there too. So I'll go back and I'll flesh that out. Hi, KJ and the Rays. Beautiful freezing day here in New Orleans. Feels like 16. Giving each victim family small profit is a great idea. It is. If for nothing else, I mean, the bottom line is they've got to travel to these trials. Maybe if they get if one of these Dateline NBCs makes millions of dollars and you take 1% and give it to a family member or family members, they can get good therapy to help them with their trauma, get them back on their feet. Think about the time they have to be away for these trials and all of that, where they're not making money and they actually need money to get there. That's why I'm saying with the trial, whenever it happens for Chad Daybell or the one in Arizona for Lori, that's what Wayne and I are committed to financing and helping Kresha with her travel expense. $1, $2, $5. If anybody can do it, I guarantee you'll be blessed if you did. It all adds up. You think so, Nancy Browning? Where you say, I thought the judge had to say no profit from this crime. I am not sure. I thought you were saying that's what you thought he said. I don't recall him saying that. I know she had some fines she had to take care of. Sarah Smith says, didn't Chad give or sell his house to John Pryor? And from what I understand, Chad's daughters are still living in the same house. Correct. That's correct. But even what I was saying when we talked last Friday is that even though he has his name on the deed and it is his house now, that's not money that he can, hey, I've got a house over here. He can't, unless he gets a loan, to get money to hire experts or do these things. Right, great point, Sunflower Sammy. If the legislature didn't want to see fit to put it in victims' family members' hands, they could at least give it to these organizations that are set up to help family victims. So it got crazy, obviously, y'all. It got real crazy from day one with Charles Vallow. And then, going into Idaho and all that, it just kept escalating and escalating and escalating. And the reason that it escalated was because of the bullshit things that Lori and Chad were seeing beyond the veil that they made up out of their own heads to continue to gain excitements and controlling one another. Lori did use her sex appeal. Lori did use what she had. What else was she going to have? She had to be subservient to Chad. Anytime that Chad let Lori believe that they were on equal footing, that was just because he knew that got her juicy. But in his own mind, he wasn't raised that a woman was on equal footing to him. And so, it goes back to this whole thing about Chad texting Lori and saying, you want me to cause them some pain? The kids that are riding with you. I can cause them pain if they're acting up. Well, that's just kind of like a stepfather coming in, which he wasn't the stepfather yet, but coming in and trying to be the dad right off the bat. And I'm sure y'all can understand this. Just trying to show his woman that he can handle things. Maybe that's another reason. Maybe that the reason Chad took JJ upstairs was a way to show Lori, hey, Lori, I'm not leaving you all alone and having to take care of JJ. I can take care of him. Look, I'm going to show you. But it was kind of different. They had the sex in it and everything. Not as, the environment behind their sexual desires and the things that they were doing and saying was all wrapped up in some kind of sacrilegious, this is how it's got to be, stuff, because we're religious people. But you never heard anything like that from Jody or Travis Alexander. They knew the only time they spoke of that stuff was that they didn't want anyone to know. Which brings me to this, October 5th of 2019? I believe that it might have been November 5th, but it was one or the other. Chad wanted to take Lori out on a real date. I've got the paperwork, and I'm going to do a pre-record on it, but I'm going to give y'all a little peeky here. And she told Alex, Chad wants to take me on a real date. But then she decides, but I think we're going to stay around here and not be out and about. In other words, she didn't want to be out and about because Tammy wasn't dead yet. The kids were gone. She wanted him to come to her apartment. This is backed up with the neighbor where Chad said he couldn't stay at his house anymore after Tammy did die. He went in and stayed over at Lori's. They were humping it. But the bottom line is the escalation of what went on between Chad and Lori about the murderous spree that they were on, they couldn't bring themselves to back up and say, you know what, I had a revelation that Hillary and this JJ's to follow Amy and the light and all that. They had to go ahead and escalate it. Excuse me for a minute. Hello.
Good morning. We're going to try to take a look at this unit. I'm not sure if we're going to get it today.
Okay.
I just don't see no way to get it back there. There's just two of us here. But I'm going to call my boss, see what he wants me to do.
Well, Wayne's here. He can have to get back.
I'm going to let him know.
He's got a tractor.
How
Whatever.
you use that.
Okay.
Hey, man.
Y'all just, are you right there, Wayne? Okay. So we have purchased a brand new unit, just to make sure that everything goes the way it needs to go. So he's going out there. We're getting a new unit. Blew me away him asking his neighbors to mortgage their home to get Lolo out of jail. How utterly ignorant they all were to think any of this would work out. It is. It's pathetic, really. Because you got to know the money that he got from Tammy. I mean, I wonder how much they spent in Hawaii. There might not have been a lot left. I mean, you saw the Ziploc bag. Does that got $436,000 in it? I think they spent a lot of that money. Airfare, it's not cheap to stay. They weren't staying in a hotel there. They were staying in a condo there. They spent a lot of money, and the bottom line is that Chad did not have the money to give to Lori. And some might say, well, Chad was selfish and he wasn't going to give his damn hooker any money anyway. Well, here's the bottom line. He didn't have it to give. If he had the money to give, y'all, he would have got her out. Because of why? Because as long as he could have her around and he could continue, I mean, he'd already told her not to speak to police. So it was a priority for him to try to get her out of jail, because he knew that if she sat in there long enough, things might start coming out. And he didn't want her implicating him in anything. So these murders happened, y'all. These are just my views, because they kept wanting to prove to each other. If they could prove these things, like, yes, they've got a dark spirit in them, we got to get rid of them, and then they murder them, then they both could have assurance. Well, at least Chad could have the assurance, this hussy will do anything for me. And she has the assurance. It's so true, It's showing in action their evil, diabolical faith in what they were making up. And the one thing about where they positioned themselves as the king and queen of the 144,000, it couldn't have been little casting prayers hoping things would work out the way they were going to work out. It had to be something really, really serious to prove to one another, to continue to mesh together the bonds of that cult. And they were not getting any pushback from Melanie Gibbs, Zulema, David Warwick, any of them. We're not, and Melanie Pulaski. None of them was pushing back and saying, maybe we should rethink this. Melanie Gibbs said in her East Idaho News Extravaganza, she says, when Nate says, well, when you were hearing all this stuff, I mean, aren't you a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? I mean, what was you thinking? And she says, well, I was questioning it. I was like, do you really think this is, do you really think that, I don't know about this and all that. Well, if she didn't know about it and it didn't come to her from God, as she says, she should have took her stupid ass and hit the road jack. But instead, she rolled on down through there, and when it was all said and done, she wants to present herself, now that she's gotten herself out of trouble, as this woman who saw a secret combination in action. You saw the 7-page letter to Aval. She wants to be the one, the authority, to tell everybody she was a witness of it. She wasn't just a witness of it. She was in the whole plan of it. She was one of them. Hello, Kathy Barella. Didn't one of his kids live across the road, or am I remembering that wrong? Wonder what they thought when Dad's car was never home after Mom died. I think Emma and her husband lived across the street at one time. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Miss Frisco Wynn, that's a very good question. How could they not see the darkness within themselves? because they absolutely believed that everyone else was beneath them. They were the elite ones. If people were not agreeing with them, then they're dark canes. If law enforcement's asking questions, they're dark canes. Chad's brother lives just down the street. I wonder if he's asked him to put up his house. I'm sure one way or the other, Chad probably asked several people. And I'm glad that it was my understanding when they were trying to get bail for Lori that no bail bondsman wanted to dang carry her. So, because she was so apt to, take off. I mean, look where they had to bring her back from Hawaii. I don't think bail bondsmen are forced to have to post bail for anyone. Jennifer Esslinger says the neighbors loved the Daybell family with a Christ-like love. I can't imagine the horror they felt at that request and the timing. Right? And Harley62 says yes, and supposedly the apartment was haunted and Chad told them to get out. Karen says, which came first on earth, a hen or an egg? She's asking it again, y'all. Which came first on earth, a hen or an egg? Well, in the Bible, God created the animals. So I would say the hen. I mean, Noah's Ark, I don't see them putting a bunch of eggs in there unless, they're going to eat those eggs. And those eggs have to be laid by something, right? So I would say the hen came first. But that's just me. Some other people have different arguments about it. Rachel Black says, probably the best inside look in her crazy mind is the recording of Charles talking to the police. NF Mom says, watch Heather Daybell's interview. I don't think they were on good terms with Chad's brother. Kathy Barilla says, look and see what is going on throughout this whole LDS church. Quite a few were led astray. Karen says, are we living or slowly dying? Well, that all comes with attitude. OKJ knows I'm going to die. I don't know when I'm going to die. And I don't know if as fast as these weeks go by, you never know. You could look at it one way or the other. I try to live in the here and now and just knowing I'm going to die and just trying to enjoy the life I've got now. And that's how I look at it. I honestly... Are we living or slowly dying? I feel like I'm living. I could be dying fastly. I'm in a fast way. I don't know, but I don't know when I'm going to die. See, so I don't know if it's slow or fast, but I do know I'm living to the best of my ability. Chad used his bullshit fake priesthood storytelling. They were together in multiple lives. His visions and death experiences fascinated Lori to the extent of extinguishing her children and husband. What the heck? I guess what I'm trying to say was it necessary for Jodi Arias to do all of that kinky sex to hold on to Travis Alexandra? Could she have went a different path and still got with him? Or for nothing else, became friends with him and then through his friendship maybe would have met the right one. Who knows? And then Lori, did she have to? Did she have to listen to what Chad was saying? Hold on just a minute. Here. Go out. Go. Oh, Daddy's right there. Did she have to? Did Lori have to believe everything Chad was telling her? Because it wasn't just about, oh, I believe you, Chad. Everything that Chad spoon-fed her and everything she spoon-fed Chad wasn't just words. They were directions. They were things that you would have to show. Yes, I've heard you, Chad. You say these things, and now there's a task or test here to show. I mean, it was never about just, there always had to be some kind of physical altercation or something involved in whatever they were saying to one another. So it wasn't just words that could go through one ear and out the other with Lori or Chad. There was always this check. They had to check one another. Do you believe me? I am the warrior beyond the millennia, says Lori. And Chad being James the Just and Raphael and you know, I guess at one time he was, what was it, Jesus's brother, Jesus, and everything else, the Holy Ghost. Those things, you can tell somebody, I believe that, but you've got to have actions behind it that prove it. It's like, believe it or not, when Melanie Gibbs says, well, you can't believe something 100%. I didn't 100% believe it. And because I didn't 100% believe it, I really didn't believe it. Well, between Chad and Lori, and especially Alex, the one slice of bread short of loaf, Alex, there had to be actions taken in order to prove, that what you're telling me, I'm fixing to give you the feedback through my actions. And those actions were murder, stealing, all of those things. Those things were proof positive. The feedback was evil, diabolical murder and fraud and all of those things, lies, it was sex, power, money. Lori had always played with people's money and given it to the kids or family, so they put her on a pedestal. They thought of her as Robin Hood type of thing. She always was money hungry. And Jax Gustafson says, I truly believe they believe it. Well, I'll tell you, I don't believe they truly believed it, Jax. I just don't. I think that there are too many indicators and actual things that were said, things that were done that, just like Candace and Manfred Judy was talking about, if this was really what they believed, why hide it? And then someone would say, well, KJ, they had to be quiet because of all the dark caves. They had to hide in the cleft of a rock. They didn't want everyone to know their secret powers and all that. Well, they didn't have a problem showing those secret powers on the innocence of Charles Vallow, the kids, Brandon Boudreaux, Tammy. These other cult members didn't have a problem keeping that hush-hush until they couldn't keep it hush-hush. I think they got into their role playing. I thought they were just totally seduced, both of them. It just took over. And like I told y'all, and some of y'all roll your eyes when I say it, I honestly believe that Chad and Lori and Alex and these other cult members let all this evil junkie shit in because of what they were doing. And they were demon-possessed. To this day, I believe Lori's still demon-possessed. Chad is demon-possessed. I believe the rest of the cult members are demon-possessed. From one measurement or another, on a spectrum of demonic possession, I believe it. They let them in. Instead of sticking to Holy Scripture and humbling themselves, and because they wanted to create a bunch of bull crap that nobody, just like Judge Boyce said in the sentencing, he's never heard of a God that would allow what had happened in Lori's case to happen. Couldn't have said that better. They had to convince people, and they will till they die in prison, that they truly believe it. Because does anyone think that Chad or Lori's going to come out one day and say, it was role play and we just got caught up in it? But deep in my heart, I was a lot like Melanie Gibb. I didn't 100% believe it, but my love for Chad, there was no real love there. God is love. And God would not allow children to be murdered, much less Charles or Tammy. Good morning, Denise Gray. Yes, Ann Gibson. Evil does exist. JoJo says, one line from Chad to Lori. Okay, whatever you say tells you nobody believed any of it. It's like they took their actual premeditated murder plan and they dressed it up real pretty. So number one, it would ease their narcissistic conscience about we could get busted and go to jail, because it sure wasn't empathy for those children. They probably made up this feeling of, oh, we're going to, when the children, they're leaving their bodies. Oh, thank you, thank you. Now we got to get rid of the demon possession in them. Anything, they were very imaginative about it. They were very imaginative about it. And it escalated. And it escalated with Jody and Travis there. When Jody realized that what she was giving Travis, which was basically any kind of sex he wanted, however he wanted it, she realized that that was not going to hold him. She murdered his ass. Okay, we know this. Well, this didn't happen in Chad and Lori's because they absolutely were giving to one another exactly what it was that kept them moving forward into the evil, diabolical, premeditated murder that they had. Hello, Lena Howry, Sarah Smith. You know, the whole ordeal about, well, why didn't it happen? You said it was going to happen. Oh, that's, you know, things change. People's agencies change. It's laughable, really. If it wasn't so damn, it doesn't piss me. It does. It pisses me off. Good morning, Maria P. JoJo said she should have imagined how great her life was going to be when in a few years Charles retired and she lived a good life. Well, she didn't want Charles anymore. He didn't excite her anymore. And this is just my theory, you know, he wasn't born into it. And she probably, you know, even though Melanie Gibbs says she met Charles at a barbecue and Charles was so excited about converting to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, she had a perfect opportunity to lead him through that, being his wife, his helpmate, to uplift him in his excitement of his new conversion. Just as when Travis Alexander baptized Jody, because his reasoning for it was so he could have her around more to have sex with her, but he dressed it up that he was bringing in another convert. Neither one of them were serious about being reverent and disciplined and obedient in what that religion wanted them to do as it pertains to sex. And Chad and Lori didn't want to do the same thing in terms of the authority that was set up in that religion. They felt like, they could get their own revelation, that this was a whole different ball game because this is the Church of the Firstborn. This is separate from the prophet in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint. They did not want to be under anyone. The reason is they wanted the power. Number two, the people that were in control in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints were not doing all these miracles and all these, wasn't showing them things that would tickle their ears and give Chad a big erection, basically. Because, they had to live with the fact that there were people that were more spiritual than them, that led better lives than them, that had the prophet, the 12 apostles had all this power. They didn't like that. They wanted that for themselves. Karen, I don't care that you're on here, But we're not here to talk about my personal habits, okay? And you might want to take a good look at yourself, because I guarantee you this, there are things that you do or that are unhealthy. So you take care of your side of the street and I'll take care of mine. And for anyone on here who, if you want to continue this shit, leave. Just leave. And if you don't want to do that because you're getting your rocks off by acting this way, then I need a couple of the Rays on here to go ahead and report. At least 2 reports. They'll knock her off. When she tries to come back on in a different name, it'll come from that account and they won't allow her to do it. So I hope it's worth it, right? Thank you, Eric Jasper. Thank you, 1979 ACR. Thank you, Jax. Thank you, Sunflower Sammy. Y'all know this is just an open channel. I don't have moderators or anything like that. I don't want to put people into the position of having to be responsible to help OKJ out. Y'all do enough just by being here and educating me and talking to me and continuing our relationship through getting justice through understanding. Thank you, Maria P. Thank you, Lena. I appreciate that. You know, there's not a single person on this planet that does everything perfectly for everyone. So everyone's got to deal with other people that might want to insert themselves, strangers want to insert their views about how I should be. But it's a whole different ball game if that person were to have other people do that to them. And perhaps what comes around goes around. Who knows? Well, I love you too, Deanna333. Oh, Sunflower Sammy, it's already happened. You know, I get disrespected all the time because, you know, people, I used to think they say it because they really care, but then again, they don't know me. They don't know me. And it's my guess that there are a lot of things out here in the world, such as food, too much TV, too much social media. You know, there's other addictions out here, other things. Maybe you think too much, or maybe it gets you off to go to a stranger and tell them something they shouldn't do. It's kind of like a little power trip. That can be addictive too. So if they could focus on themselves and clean up their own shit, I think this world would be a great, better place. It really would. Thank you, Sarah Smith. 1979 ACR says, I'm smoking right now along with you, KJ, and having my coffee. That makes me want to have another cig now. Gosh, that's good. I enjoy it so much. Harley62 says, same here. Coffee and my cig goes well together. Hi, Billy. Right. Denise, thank you for getting us back on track. Let's keep our focus on what's important. Karen is begging for attention. Let's totally ignore her 2 cents. I'm having a new port light. What is it? What is it? So there's that. They used to, remember years and years ago, they had those cigarette commercials. You gone a long way, baby. Maria P says, I'm fat and frying bacon. Well, honey, I'll tell you what. OKJ's got the Tina. I got a talking Tina right here after having 3 kids. It folds over and it looks like a pair of lips. And if I do like this with it, with my belly, I can talk with it. It's called Tina the Talking Tummy. Jenny Benny says, love my morning with coffee with a cig. So back to what we were talking about, and I'm going to close it up because I'm now a little over an hour on a Wednesday. I will get with y'all tomorrow during that hearing. Again, it's at 10 o'clock, and I think I got a comment on when I posted 2 things on there about the original alibi of John Priors that was in January 24th of 2023, and then at the end, the amended alibi, and somebody put in the comments, I can't read it. Well, if you click on the picture and do this, you can read it. I have to do that. So I apologize that you just can't read it unless you zoom in a little bit. But I'm going to be over at Cresh's in the chat with all of y'all who are going to be able to make it. And we're just going to accept whatever comes. The bottom line is that in terms of Chad and Lori, they took it to the limit. They stepped over that limit into criminality. And it all came from both of them. Pretty much, they both should have just had pom-poms, just cheering each other on the whole time. Whatever it was that would make Lori want to do something for Chad, or Chad do something for Lori, we all know it was evil, it was wrong. And, so Harley62 says, daughter of Scotland, it's hard to get rid of that habit. It's so ingrained in my blood, too. I love my cigarettes. The X-File says, today was a great day. Love is everlasting. Good morning, Liza Joe. Yeah. So, y'all have a great day. And I'm going to look up this Karen. And Karen, don't come back on this channel anymore. Okay? If you do, we're going to continue to report you. I'm going to look you up and block you. Okay? So unless you're going to go and make a ghost name or whatever so you can act sick and twisted and mentally disturbed, I suggest you get some therapy. That's what I think. You are so concerned about someone that you don't even know their health. Well, I'll tell you what, mentally and emotionally, what you're doing on here, it's sick. You need some therapy. Maybe some cognitive behavioral therapy, something, maybe an antidepressant. Maybe that's what you need. Because to come on here and act like that, when we're talking about something totally different, you have no right to do it. But you're doing it. And maybe you get a little sense of some kind of power trip out of it. But the bottom line is we see you for what you are. And it's pathetic. It really is. So with that said, I love you all. And I apologize that someone wants to take the time to make other people, feel bad about what they're doing when they themselves have got a lot of shit on their plate. I guarantee it, that they don't even want to look at. See, they go and they attack other people and tell other people, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, because they don't want to look at themselves and what they shouldn't be doing. And one of the things they shouldn't be doing is telling old KJ anything about my own personal life, about how I should be living it. So I'll say this to you, Karen, and I want you to listen very, very closely. You can kiss my country ass, all right? You heard it. Don't come back. I'm going to look you up. We will work it out, Rays. I love you. We'll get back together tomorrow and keep on looking.